Okay, welcome back everyone. For this deep dive, we're digging into something pretty fascinating actually.
Yeah, we're looking at insights on, you know, success, happiness, growth
Yeah.
from someone who's, well, achieved massive global recognition, Will Smith. And we're pulling this from a really candid YouTube interview he did recently. He gets into everything, his path to financial freedom, obviously, but also some like really profound life lessons. So the goal here, our mission, is to unpack his viewpoint, pull out those key bits of wisdom, and figure out, okay, what does this actually mean for you? You know, maybe you're chasing a goal, maybe you're rethinking things, or maybe you're just curious how someone like that thinks. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so first off, to really get where he's coming from, especially on financial freedom, we need to understand his starting point. He's really clear. He says he came from the opposite of money, so no privilege there. And that context is super important. It shows his success wasn't just handed to him, it was built. Strategy, mindset, not just inheritance. Absolutely. And his career path, I mean, it's definitely not linear, is it? Started in music.
Right. Then TV, the Fresh Prince thing was huge, obviously.
Huge. Then movies, blockbusters, and then even like production, business ventures.
He really diversified. He even joked about needing a couple hyphens for his job title.
Yeah, I bet.
But what's really interesting is his philosophy about how you start, that initial focus. He describes it like an arrow. You hyper-focus on one thing at the very tip, master it, like really specifically and well.
Okay.
And only then, once you've got that deep mastery, do the other things kind of naturally follow. He brings up The Alchemist, you know, Paulo Coelho's book.
Yeah.
And that idea that the whole of the universe is contained in a single grain of sand. His take is, if you master one thing that deeply, you understand principles that apply everywhere, you can expand from there. Which kind of raises a question, doesn't it?
Yeah, like how does that super narrow focus then explode into this massive, varied success he's had? It's a powerful way to think about focus, though.
Yeah.
It's not just doing one thing. It's like understanding the DNA of success within that one thing, that grain of sand.
Right. Seeing the universal in the specific.
And this focus, it kind of sets up what he says is his big secret to success. And it sounds almost too simple. Just that the win goes to the most hours committed.
Ah, the grind.
Yeah. He basically says, look, someone might be more talented, but if I put in 10 hours a day and they put in 9 consistently. Over time, it's going to be really hard for you to beat me. It's all about that relentless effort piling up.
Yeah.
But, you know, is it always just about hours? Especially in creative fields where talent or luck seems so, I don't know, crucial.
That's a fair question. But for him, that effort seems tied directly to something else he feels really strongly about.
Okay.
Choosing who you take advice from.
Okay.
Very, very carefully.
Ah, right.
He's super firm on this. He says, taking advice from somebody who hasn't done what you want to do is almost insanity.
Wow. Insanity. Strong word.
Yeah. And he doubles down. Compares it to ingesting the poison of their ignorant opinion.
Ooh.
And his direct quote, the one everyone remembers, is, never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with.
That's powerful. And he has that story about Quincy Jones, right?
Exactly. He called Quincy looking for advice when things were tough.
Yeah. And Quincy just refused.
Pretty much. Quincy Jones, in his, very direct way, said something like, I wouldn't have chose none of the S you chose.
Ha! Classic Quincy.
But then instead of advice, he gave him what Will called a real vote of confidence. He just told him, just keep doing that.
So the best advice was no advice, just validation.
Kind of, yeah. Trust your gut. Lean on your own intuition, even when you're talking to a legend. Your path is your path.
That really emphasizes self-trust.
It does. And he has this great analogy for it, too, about a bird on a branch.
Oh, yeah.
He asks, if a bird lands on a branch, does the bird trust the branch or does it trust its wings?
Its wings, presumably?
Right. He says he's never seen a bird fall because the branch broke. The real stability, the real trust, has to be in yourself, your wings.
That's good. The branch, like external circumstances, can be weak or strong.
But your inner resilience, your wings, that's what keeps you steady.
And that internal strength, that connects to confidence, right? How we show up.
Absolutely. It leads right into how he sees confidence.
Which isn't about being fearless, apparently.
Not at all. He says confidence is built on not being scared to look stupid or to fail.
Right, like getting okay with striking out sometimes.
Yeah, getting comfortable if you hit 3 out of 10 or if you tell a joke and it bombs.
That comfort with failing, but like in front of people.
That's what gets perceived as confidence. It's not perfection. It's the willingness to be imperfect, publicly and keep going.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, actually. It's relatable.
And this whole journey, the success, the self-trust, it led him to this pretty profound realization about money and happiness.
Ah, yeah, the big one.
He states it flat out, money doesn't buy happiness, period.
We hear that a lot, but coming from him.
Right. But he goes further. He actually believes there's an amount of money that once you pass it, it buys misery.
Buys misery. Wow. Did he say, like, where that point is?
He did. For him, in his experience in America, he pinpointed around $1 million a year.
$1 million a year.
Yeah, he felt that beyond that, it actually started going the other way.
Yeah.
More problems, not fewer. Obviously, that's his perspective, not a universal law.
But still, a startling thought from someone who's clearly way past that point.
Definitely.
And he talked about the social side, too, didn't he? How extreme wealth affects relationships.
Yeah, he mentioned it's difficult to make new friendships at certain financial points.
Why is that?
Because, he says, when you have that much money, it's all people can think about when they meet you or interact with you. It just hangs in the air.
Yeah, I can see how that would create a barrier. Makes genuine connection harder.
Totally changes the dynamic. And this idea connects to something really unique. He talked about the cliff top versus rock bottom.
Okay, what's that?
He argues that at the absolute peak of material success, the cliff top, you hit this kind of corresponding abyss.
An abyss at the top.
Yeah, because you realize that nothing material, nothing external you can buy or achieve can actually satisfy that deep internal need.
Yeah.
And that feeling, that emptiness at the peak, mirrors the abyss you might feel at rock bottom when you have nothing.
So polar opposites leading to the same place?
Essentially, yeah. Both extremes force you to confront the same truth. What you're actually looking for is you. It's an inside job.
That's profound. It really highlights the limits of money, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Like he says, money can't fix everything, can't cure certain diseases, can't mend broken relationships, can't bring back people you've lost.
Exactly. The only real safety comfort, as he puts it, isn't in the bank account. It's in developing an absolute steadiness in yourself, no matter what life throws at you.
Internal fortitude again.
Always circles back to that. And this ties into how he thinks about identity, too. He suggests that what we call a person is really just a small constellation of ideas. Labels, essentially.
Like race, nationality, job.
Yeah, race, creed, color, city, country, all of it. He argues we're way bigger than we think we are, beyond those definitions.
And those definitions can hold us back.
That's his point. The idea of a person can even become the prison that keeps us from excelling. We limit ourselves by clinging too tightly to those labels.
Interesting. It's about expansion then. And speaking of challenging things, he talked a lot about adversity, right? Especially through the pursuit of happiness.
Oh, absolutely. Drawing on Chris Gardner's actual story.
Yeah, he quotes Gardner saying, "Suffering is a gift," which sounds harsh.
It does, but his point is that the universe teaches through difficulty. He believes the shaping of real willpower, of internal energy, happens almost always exclusively in adversity.
So lean into the tough stuff.
Pretty much. He encourages you to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's where the real growth happens, apparently. That's where you're forged.
It makes sense, even if it's not fun in the moment.
Right. And for him, navigating all this seems connected to his belief in a higher power.
He talked about God.
Yeah, or an energy that is constantly creating. He feels that cultivating a relationship with that energy, that source,
Makes you stronger.
infinitely more powerful, he says, than just relying on your own ego construct. It's about tapping into the creative intelligence that's making the sun and the stars and the trees.
Connecting to something much bigger than yourself.
Exactly, transcending the small self.
And that idea of connection, it loops back beautifully to relationships, which he also emphasized. He mentioned his grandmother's advice.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was great. Everywhere you go one day, you're going to have to go back.
Meaning, treat people well.
Basically, yeah. Because he realized it's all relationships. And crucially, people will take you places that money can't.
That's a huge statement.
It is. He frames it like every person is going to be a part of the tapestry of your future. Every interaction matters, builds that tapestry.
Don't burn bridges, basically, because you'll probably need to cross them again.
Or just value the connection for its own sake. And looking forward, his message, especially to younger people, is incredibly optimistic, almost boundless.
What does he say?
He urges them to recognize the absolute infinite nature of what you could do.
Infinite nature.
Yeah, he calls consciousness this crazy gift that literally can do anything. He's basically saying, look, your current situation isn't fixed.
Like your job, where you live.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the job you went to today. You don't have to live where you live now. You don't have to be in the relationship that you're in.
Yeah.
Change is possible.
But there's a catch, right?
There's always a catch. It just requires a certain amount of willingness to suffer.
Ah. Back to embracing discomfort for growth.
It seems to be the common thread, doesn't it? Change requires effort, sometimes pain, but the potential is limitless if you're willing.
Wow. Okay, so that was quite the journey through Will Smith's perspective. We've covered the sheer power of just committing the hours.
Right, the grind, and being incredibly picky about whose advice you actually listen to.
Definitely. And that really surprising idea about money, how too much can potentially bring misery, not happiness.
The clifftop abyss.
Yeah, and ultimately finding strength and self-reliance, trusting your own wings, and even seeing suffering not just as bad, but as a gift or a teacher.
It's a lot to chew on, and maybe a final thought for everyone listening to reflect on. Really think about that clifftop idea. Imagine you achieved everything material you ever wanted. Money, fame, possessions, the works. What would actually be left? When the external goals are all met, what internal understanding, what deep sense of self would you need to find real peace and satisfaction standing there at the top, looking into that potential abyss?
That's a powerful question to sit with. What's really you when all the external stuff is stripped away or achieved? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope these insights from Will Smith give you something valuable to ponder on your own path.
Please click like and then subscribe. Also share this video with your friends. Thank you.